by Riverside FM.
Hey there, it's Jitsi, and you're listening to the Crush Chronicles podcast, a safe space to discuss crushes and how they affect our lives. So grab your coffee or wine, pull out your old diaries, and settle in for today's topic and discussion. Connor, it appeared, had no interest in me. I had seen him several more times over the summer, but never as eventful as that night. When I wasn't working the matchmaker with Reese or attending journalism camp, most of my time was spent with Aaron, hunting boys. Sometimes Reese and Aurora would join too. We would drive around town, blaring the M&M show, scouring for that silver two-door with stars on the back, sometimes stopping at Subway to refuel, and only retreating to the local grocery store when we couldn't find it to stalk Aaron's crush, another guy in a band who resembled a skinny punk version of Johnny Depp, who worked as a stalker. Not forgetting that Connor had previously been pursuing another girl in town. We also spent the summer investigating whether or not he was single, even making a point to ask Johnny Depp Jr. during one of his shifts. "I don't know," he told us one day in the soda aisle, his cheekbones looking especially sharp and his black hair spiked up with gel. "I haven't seen Connor in a few months. He was single then, though." Okay, welcome to today's episode. We have a special guest today. Michael Cortez is 39 years old and an aspiring writer with a bachelor's degree in creative writing from UCR. When not writing, he enjoys spending time with his girlfriend Karen and cat Adele, an avid reader, movie buff, and trivia nerd. Michael is a native of Southern California from the Inland Empire. He did not see snow until he was 21. He now finds it overrated. I'm excited to have Michael talk with me today. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Okay, I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but you're a very special first for this show because you were the first male to occupy this space, and I'm very excited to get your perspective on things.
Am I really?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Nice.
No pressure. No pressure. So before we start, we're going to crush some ice. So who is a current celebrity or fictional crush you have, or one that you had in your childhood?
Okay, so my first crush I remember having as a kid was Wednesday Addams.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Just from the, I don't
Like
know,
from the old TV show?
no, from the movies.
From the movies?
Christina
Hey,
Ricci, yeah.
yes, Christina Ricci is amazing.
I know, right? And I was rewatching it recently, and I was like, man, I really did have a crush on her when I was a kid. Like, just that whole deadpan, dark humor that appealed to me a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says to me, what that says about me as a child, but yeah, that's who was my crush.
No, I mean, I don't know if you've seen on the interwebs, but a lot of women who are millennials, so they watch the Addams Family too when they're younger, they're all about Gomez.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
because he's just, he's also dark, handsome, and all about his woman. So
I know.
yeah.
They have a really healthy relationship, those two.
Yes, they do. And people never thought about it because you're just trying to get over their quote unquote weird lifestyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I love Christina Ricci.
And then my celebrity crush as a kid, though, was I went through a Gwen Stefani phase when I was like
Oh, okay.
10. I think like Tragic Kingdom had just come out, and I was so in love with her. It went away when I became a teenager, but there was a good period of maybe 5 years where I was into Gwen Stefani too.
Yeah, Gwen Stefani's cool. She was so glam during Tragic Kingdom. Yeah, I get that. I loved that album. I listened to that all the time.
Yeah, that was my album as a kid too. That was like the one I
Yeah.
would always have on repeat. My dad would be like, "Aren't you tired of this?" I'm like, no, never.
No, it's like soothing to listen to your favorite music over and over again. I would do that, and I would do that with movies. But I was 10 years old, and I would belt out Don't Speak constantly. Like I had adult woes as a 10-year-old.
Right, I love that song. I don't think I actually understood what that song was about until I got older, but I would always sing
Right?
that song too, and it's like, "Oh shit, this song is deep."
Yeah. So that's what 10-year-old Rachel thought before she really fully understood it as well.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm going to share one of mine. When I was younger and still going into when I was older is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people first saw him in Third Rock from the Sun, but I never really watched that. I was aware of it and I saw him on that, but it was really 10 Things I Hate About You and
Yeah.
Beyond. And then when I was an adult, that's when he started Hit Record. Do you know about Hit Record?
Oh yeah, I used to follow that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. And I just thought that was like so genius. I'm kind of sad that it didn't like take off a little bit more because I thought that I still think that the concept of that is really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sad too. Like I was a big fan of all that for a long time when he first started it. I still like Joe
Yeah.
and love it, but yeah, hit record. I was always following the tweets and everything.
Yeah. So for people who may not know what Hit Record was, basically the concept behind Hit Record, it was just community like filmmaking in a way. He would just have a platform online and literally anybody who could sign on with a smartphone, an iPad, or your computer, you could do things, you could curate things, and people would look in it. And he had a TV show on, I think it was Spike TV, that he would have like a theme. Like I think the first episode was called One because it was the first episode. And just anything that was curated off of that website where they had like musicians, voiceover actors, artists, like they would just come together and create beautiful art, but it's from people all over the world. And I thought it was just so great. But
But
yeah,
yeah, I miss it.
me too. I mean, he's still out there doing stuff, but I think as with most entertainers, when they get older, they're kind of more production and
Yeah.
direction and stuff. Okay, so we're gonna get into the Chronicles. So before you joined today, you read the third installment of Connor's story in the Crush Chronicles, which is titled The Chase. So we're gonna have a discussion inspired by that excerpt. Quick reminder to listeners, the questions I ask are inspired by the piece from the Crush Chronicles, but you do not have to have read any of the Crush Chronicles to enjoy the discussion that we're about to have. Okay, so at the beginning of The Chase, teenage Rachel is gallivanting through her 17th summer, her last grade school summer, by working a play at a local college, attending a journalism camp, and, quote, hunting boys, while listening to The Eminem Show on repeat with her best friend. How did teenage Michael spend his high school summers?
I was a really bad student, so all of my summers in high school were spent in summer school.
Really?
Yeah, but summer school for us was really weird. I think they were really understaffed. So you would have like, one teacher in a classroom full of like 30 students, and they would teach a variety of different subjects. So they would divide the class. So you'd have one half like, doing math, the other half doing history, and the other half doing English. So it just,
Wow.
yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, that's a lot for the teacher. It's hard enough to have, a 30-to-1 ratio teaching one subject. So what did you have to go for like all the subjects or was it just for
I went mainly for math because I was terrible at math. That was the one subject I always failed. So I always went for math. And I remember it would start at maybe 8 a.m. and we'd be done by noon. But at that time, my mom, she worked maybe 15 minutes away from my high school. So I would just go hang out with her at her office after work. And I remember as soon as I got to the office, it was during lunchtime for the ladies in the office, and they would all watch General Hospital. So there was a period of 2 summers in a row where I got so hooked on General Hospital. I would just rush in and be like, okay, what's happening? What's happening? Like, who? Oh my God, they did this! Like. So I was just sitting there watching soap operas during lunch with all the ladies. It was pretty fun.
I love that. I mean, those soap operas, I don't know how they do it. It's some sort of writing magic. They can hook you. There were a couple summers when I was a preteen. I don't know if you remember the soap opera Passions.
That I love that one. There was like a
Yeah,
witch and like a
it
cute little
didn't.
midget that turned to like a slide.
Yes. Yes, and it didn't last very long. But everybody I talk to that's our age, they remember it and they were all about it. But I remember that used to come on like at 10 or 11 in the morning, and I was always a late sleeper during the summer vacations. But I would make sure if I was not up by the time it was coming on, I would be so upset because we didn't have DVRs and shit back then. So
You had to
we had to be up to watch it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I used to watch General Hospital too because I think the soap operas would come on like one right after the other, so you
yeah.
would kind of get hooked in to the next one. Yeah, so I totally get that. That's so fun.
Yeah, I would just go over there, just watch it. I was such a little chismoso too. The ladies were just talking about all the office gossip, and I'm sitting there with my headphones on, pretending not to listen. Meanwhile, I'm just like, ooh. I knew who they were talking about.
That's funny. That's something I've learned. My oldest daughter is 12, but she has always had sponges for years. You just have to be careful. You don't know, the kids are listening. They look all
Yeah.
cute and innocent there, but they're listening and they know what's up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I got so much, like, good dirt, and then on the ride home with my mom, I would just tell her, "So, did you know about this?" And she'd be like, "How did you know about this?"
That's funny. So besides soap operas and summer school, did you do anything after those hours, like hanging out anywhere?
You know, I was a wallflower in school. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really come into my own or, like, out of my shell until maybe, like, junior year, like, right before senior year. That's when I started, like, "Okay, like, I'm comfortable, I've got my group of friends," and that's when I just started, being more outgoing and more like, "Okay, like, yeah, sure, I'll go hang out." Because before that, it was like, I just wanna stay home and read, watch my stories. Um
Yes.
but I do remember my junior year of summer school, right before we started senior year, I had a class with one of the popular girls and, like, never talked to her because I was one of those people that's like, if they were popular, I just assumed they didn't want to talk to me, so I wasn't going to talk to them, you know? And then we just had a class together and I had my CD player with me because it was 2000s and I had like those books full of CDs, that I would
Yes.
bring. And so, like, one day, she was just looking through it, like, just, and she's like, "Oh, you like The Cure?" I was like, "Yeah, I love The Cure." And we just started bonding over that, and we became friends because we had, like, the same taste in music, and she started talking to me, and then, like, senior year, she was still my friend, so I was like, "Oh, wow." So, like, I started making more friends outside of my social group, and
That's
it was
awesome.
kind of funny, though, because like, our school was small. I went to the same school as, Kim Lopez, so, the same small high school, Catholic school. So, like, we all knew each other, but we didn't really, like, know each other, you know what I mean? Like, we knew who each
Yes.
other were, but we didn't get to know each other, so it was really, like, around junior year, senior year, that's when I started coming out of my shell and hanging out with popular kids that I probably wouldn't have talked to otherwise, and, yeah, aside from that, my summers were just chill, just like I said, I was a wallflower, I was more just, like, staying home reading, I would talk to my friends on AIM sometimes, but that's about it.
Yeah, aim. I love that you bonded over music because everybody knows this, but music can be a great unifier. It speaks to everybody on different levels. And I also feel like, I don't know if you've seen, there's a lot like where millennials just kind of have an eclectic taste for music. Like we're kind
Yeah,
of all over the place. Like
yeah.
we have a little bit of everything.
I was really influenced by all the music from my parents, which they're boomers. So,
Right.
I got a lot of Beatles, Rolling Stones, stuff like that, Bob Dylan. And my sister, I don't know if she's Gen X. She's either like an older millennial or Gen X. She was born in 80. So I got a lot of like,
I think she's technically Gen X.
yeah. So I got a lot of 80s stuff from her, a lot of British music, Morrissey, The Cure, all that, New Order. So by the time I got to high school, like I just had it in my head that I didn't fit in with everybody because my taste in music was so not of the moment, not popular music.
Right.
But then it turns out, oh yeah, everyone's heard of these these bands, this music. So yeah, it's a good unifier. We do have a very eclectic taste. Like when you were in your passage about the Eminem sharps, I used to really be into Eminem, and it just seems so weird for me to be into Eminem. It just didn't make sense for me, but like it kind of does for all of us because that's all of our music growing up.
Yeah. And it's really funny. I guess I still give off this kind of persona. I was always perceived as very innocent, which I was. I was very innocent and naive when I was younger. And I just had my sister in law on, and she read that I was like all about Eminem. And she was like, "Really? You?" I was like, "Oh my God, I was like in love with Eminem." It was so, and she was like, "Really?" So yeah, it's just really funny. But he was just so of our time.
Yeah,
He was like, yeah, like a big rebellious voice of our time.
yeah. On YouTube, I don't know who uploaded this, but I found some old movie awards and video music awards from MTV. He was performed on a lot of them, and I remember being a kid just staying up to watch him perform and everything, and I was like, "Wow,
Yeah.
he was really big."
As did I. Anytime he was performing on the VMAs, I was like, oh, yeah. But then also, you said you read a lot. So, what were you reading those summers? Like, do you have like specific genres or
I read a lot of Stephen King during that time.
oh, really? I can't. I'm too scared. I respect that so much. So, I'll have to live vicariously through you. But you're reading it a lot as a kid?
Yeah, as a teenager, I read a lot of Stephen King. My sister, she gave me The Shining because I had seen the movie, and I was like, "Oh, this movie's pretty cool." She's like, "You should read the book." And then I read the book, and there was a point where, like, I literally had to read that with the lights on, like, during the day. I couldn't read that at night. I was like, "Nope, I need to read this during the day." I tried reading Catcher in the Rye, and it's so funny because, like, I know that book's, like, the seminal teenage angst book, and I tried reading it at, like, 16. I was like, "This guy's bored. I don't wanna read this shit." And then I read it at 19, and again, I was like, this is so dumb. Why am I trying? And then I was like 22 and I was like, oh man, I get this book. Why didn't I read this when I was a teenager? It took me like 3 times to get through that book. I tried reading Lord of the Rings because that came out, and I think I got like halfway and I was like, yeah, I'm not, I don't, I've seen the movie. I'm good.
Yeah, I heard that Lord of the Rings is like really thick and heavy on like setting and not so much about the action. It's just
Yeah.
a whole lot of explaining how beautiful everything was, which is nice. I'm sure it gave his name's escaping me, but the guy that did the
Tolkien.
movies,
Oh,
yeah,
Jackson. Yeah.
yeah, Jackson, Peter Jackson, a lot to go on. But I was just like, okay, yeah, sounds like I don't need to read it.
So yeah, I was reading a lot of like horror, fantasy stuff, and then I also tried reading some contemporary stuff. Oh, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I remember reading that. I read that book
Oh,
in like
okay.
one sitting.
Oh, wow. Okay. I've only seen the movie. I actually didn't know it was based on a book.
Yeah, most books are better than the movie, but I prefer the book over the movie. So there's a lot more characterization and stuff. So
Yeah. Oh, and then you mentioned that you read The Shining and you liked the movie. Did Kim ever tell you that we went on a trip to Colorado and we stayed at the Stanley,
yes, I remember her
which,
telling me about that. Yeah,
yeah, a lot of people think that's where it was shot, but it wasn't. It's just where
or he wrote the
Stephen
book,
King,
or he came up with the idea.
yeah, he came up with the idea. And I mean, we did go on a ghost tour and stuff. We didn't see any ghosts, much to our dismay, but we also could not sleep that night because we went on a ghost tour, like a nighttime ghost tour. Because we were like, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. They do have like a lot of spaces where they have stories of hauntings and stuff, but we could not go to sleep that night, even though we were together in the same room. Yeah, we spooked ourselves, but that was really cool. Highly recommend. It's a beautiful hotel, like beautiful views. Okay, so after reading this excerpt, what parts of the story stuck out or resonated with you and why?
You have a part where you're talking, or you go back to interview the band. He walks you to your car at the end, and you're just kind of like, ugh. And I've had that so many times with crushes, where it's like they're taken, but you're still kind of like maybe not flirting, but it feels like flirting. You know what I mean? Like it feels like you're having a connection when maybe you don't. They're just being friendly. So that kind of resonated. I was like, oh, I feel that.
Yeah, it hurts because you're very much there. Like you said, it's in the moment. It feels like you're flirting, which I was probably flirting. I'm sure teenage Rachel was. Don't know what he was doing, but yeah, it's just because you feel so hard, but it's not being reciprocated. There's nothing you can do with that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just painful. Yeah, and for those of you who haven't read it, I was basically banging my head on the steering wheel of my car before I left because I was just like, oh, what the fuck. So yeah, I'm glad you could relate to that because
Yeah, that
it's real.
I've had so many times where I'm just like I know like I know it's not love now, but at the time I was just like I'm so in love with you.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the hormones, but when you're teenagers, it's just so amplified.
It is.
And it probably was love in some sort
Hmm.
of way. There's just different types of love. You don't have to be too old or too young, but it's so strong.
Yeah.
During her summer, teenage Rachel and her bestie Erin have lunch with an acquaintance who teases that Rachel, quote, fell for him quick after one lap, referring to the previous chapter when Rachel rode in Connor's car with him. Tell us about a time when you fell for someone, quote, after one lap.
I think I was like 20 at the time, and I met this girl at a party. I had met her previously at like a few other parties, but we never really talked or anything. And I remember the last party before this one I saw her at, she had a boyfriend. I was like, oh yeah, you're cute. You're cute. You're fun. Whatever. And at this one party, she just came up and started talking to me. And she already had been drinking, and I think I had like 2 beers, but she had just come up and just started talking to me, and then, like, we just spent the entire night talking, then she kinda disappeared, I don't know where she went, and then, after a while, she came back, and we just started talking some more and hanging out, and then this is going back a ways, so a few days later, she MySpaced me, and I'll never forget the MySpace message was, "Hey, I'm sure you probably forgot, to ask for my number, so here it is," and she gave me her number over MySpace, and that was it. I was kinda like, "Okay, I think I'm into you." And this was after, like, one meeting of just getting to know her. So that was, like
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so that was the first lap, just meeting her that one night and just having a cool conversation, and she gave me her number, and I was just like, "Okay, I'm hooked."
Awesome. And MySpace coming in clutch there. I love that.
Yeah. That's how that was like, our messaging back then, IM and then, like, MySpace.
Yeah, yeah. I miss MySpace. I feel like that was very of our time.
It was a very innocent social media site, there was no drama. No.
Yeah. No, I have to say I did have drama. My friends would get upset about the top 4, top 8 thing.
I remember that.
That would cause drama. But other than that, the only drama was like if your page took too long to load because we were coding it too hard.
Yeah, right? Put too much music on it or something, the background, the glittering background.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. I love it. I miss it. So, did you call her? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I'm still kind of this way, but at that time too, I was averse to calling people on the phone. I'm a texter. Unless I have something urgently to talk to you about, like I'm a texter. So we just started texting and then talking over MySpace and then IM.
So, did you guys end up dating?
We did, yeah, for a few months.
Awesome. Oh, awesome. That's such a successful one lap story.
I mean, it took a while. It took like an entire summer because I'm the type of person when I have a crush on someone, I don't pursue it. I'm just like, I'm just gonna pine from afar. In my teenage Michael's mind, I was like, oh, that's more romantic. I'm just gonna be a piner, just write in my journal, and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, I relate so much to all of the above. The journaling, the pining, all of that. And yeah, the only time I ever really made a move, I'm trying to think because as I'm writing all of these and publishing things, people can correct me. But really, it was the first time was with my husband. He was the first person that I got his number, and I was all sleuthy about it and stuff. I just couldn't make the move. Yeah, I would pine. I would journal about it.
For me, that was easier because there was no risk involved. I would just stay away, watch from afar, and every time we would hang out, just get that like, oh, she's talking to me, that butterfly
Yes.
feeling. Not showing that I'm actually interested when everybody knows. It was like an open secret that summer. Like everyone kind of knew. So
Yeah, I know we think we're not being obvious, but you're just giving off all the signals.
right?
Okay, so there is a brief part in this piece in which teenage Rachel embarrasses herself in front of her crush when she gets super excited that he asks her to roll her window down when they're at a spotlight, or it's not a spotlight, a stoplight. She thinks it's going to be some wonderful connection of a moment, but he just tells her that she forgot to turn her headlights on. Getting embarrassed in front of her crush is inevitable, almost like a human rite of passage in a way. When was a time you felt embarrassed in front of a crush?
He's like every time I was around a crush, I feel like I did something stupid because, like I said, I was trying not to show that I like, but at the same time, I was also trying to be more outgoing. Like I didn't want to show that I was into you, but at the same time, I've done so many like dumb, embarrassing things in front of crushes. Just like I think the biggest one for me is that like I misspeak when I'm really like flustered. The words don't exactly come out right, so there'll be like a lot of times when I'm just like telling a story and nothing comes out correctly. There have been a few times in front of crushes where I'm just like misspeaking. I'm trying to sound like cool, like I know what I'm doing, and then it's just like my words are all jumbled. A lot of times like that. That's my biggest. Oh, I've embarrassed myself. Like I'm just gonna go die now.
At least you would try to say something. I, most of the time, would just kind of like freeze
Mm.
and not really say anything. It'd be like, they'd be like, hi. And I'd be like, what do I say?
Yeah,
When the correct answer is hi.
yeah.
But I'm just like, oh my God.
How do you greet someone? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. How do you do it? And I don't know if you went back and read the very first chapter of Connor is he approaches me and I like literally look over my shoulder just like to we're the only people in the vicinity, but I look over my shoulder to see like, are you talking to me? And he's like, well, who the fuck else would I be talking to? Like,
Yeah, that was like me that night when I met her. Like she just came up to me talking. I'm just like, are you lost? Like, what are you doing? Like like there's a bunch of other people on this couch. Why did you just single me out? I'm so confused.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. At one point, teenage Rachel discovers that her crush had begun to date someone else, of course. Though this was obviously disappointing for her, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders because she felt like some of the pressure was taken off when she was around him. And this may sound counterintuitive to someone who is pursuing a crush. How have you felt when you found out your crush was dating someone else? Were you relieved like teen Rachel or were you devastated or in between?
Devastated for sure. I've never been relieved when someone I have crushing on starts dating someone. I get very in my own head, and I just start getting mopey and everything. Teenage Michael is definitely of the mopey variety. Like I'll never just thinking about it now because it was just reminding me like so much. I was like, I'll never find love. Love is dead. Love doesn't exist. Just so whiny and emo. I was very emo without the emo look.
Your emo in your heart.
Yeah, making stupid aim away messages, thinking I'm deep and everything. I'm just like quoting sad love songs.
Oh my gosh, we were so proud of our aim away messages. I think the ones I was most proud of though is around that time, Lilo and Stitch had just come out, and that is like one of my favorite Disney movies. Lilo was really the first one of her kind in Disney at that point. She was very emo, very voodoo witch spell casting, and I was rolling in the theater. But I remember one of my away messages was, my friends need to be punished, because that's what she does when she's voodooing these spoons with all of her friends. Which, if you hadn't seen Lilo and Stitch, you probably thought I was some, like a weird person. But yeah, our away messages, what is that, the equivalent, I guess, like our Instagram bios now, that like
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, because every time I see an Instagram, like I'm sorry, I'm so mean, but like every time I see an Instagram when it's like, oh yeah, proud family of such and such, I'm like, oh, come on, like what are we doing here? But yeah, as soon as a crush started dating somebody, I was just very mopey. My sad AIM messages, my MySpace stuff, like I'm just putting it out there into the world that I'm miserable because the girl I have a crush on is dating somebody. It's so ridiculous.
Well, at the time though, it didn't feel ridiculous. It did feel like kind of the end of the world, where you're like, well, what now?
Thinking back on it, I don't know if I would have listened to them, but if someone had come to me and just been like, "Dude, it's one person. You're a teen. There's a whole world out there of people you're gonna meet someday." I don't know if I would have listened to them if they had done that. You know what I mean? But I would kind of wish someone had told me that.
I mean, yeah, I think about writing about these things. I think about, God, I wish I would have known.
Mhm.
But really putting myself back in that teenage headspace, which is kind of difficult, I don't think I would have listened either. I don't think there's a lot of teenagers that would listen. And it's kind of scary as my own child is approaching the teenage years. I don't think she's going to listen to me either. One, because I'm her mom. She's not going to listen to me. She's not going to think I understand because I'm 40 now. I am way beyond, if ever have been, a teen to her.
We don't know what it's. We were never teens. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we don't know what it's like. We don't remember. But yeah, I just don't think we would listen. One, I think because our feelings were so strong. We just feel them so deeply and immensely. And I think it's really our first time that we feel like a hint of adulthood, of being grown, because we're not a child anymore, but we're coming into our own. We're getting primed to go to college and go start our careers and become whatever, we think we're going to become. We just can't see just the concept of going beyond that, because really K through 12, that's all we know, because anything before kindergarten, we don't even really remember. So to even imagine a life out there where we meet all of these different people, and a lot of people don't know or don't realize too, after you graduate, well, depending on where you live, I'm sure small towns are different, but after you graduate, you don't really see any of those people again. So they're really not that important or not that big of a deal in the course of your life.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I've gone to private Catholic schools my whole life, so K through 8, I knew the same amount of people. I knew the same, like, group of 20 people maybe. Once I went to high school, I wanna say maybe 10 people from my grade school followed into high school, and then after that, yeah, I'm just seeing the same people for 4 years because it's such, like, a small setting, and then, because Riverside is very small. I know it's, like, a medium-sized city, but it's actually pretty small, and then, like, a lot of people, when they graduated, they just went to the local community college. So you would still see the same people, you know? And I think too, our generation now, it's a lot different from, like, say, my sister's generation, because we had social media by the time we were graduating and going into college. So it was a lot easier to keep in touch with people than it would have
Yeah,
been,
that's true.
you know? So I feel like that whole, like, you don't see the people that you grew up with, I don't think that applies to us anymore, and especially to the newer generation, because we're constantly in contact with people, and then we just keep in touch with the people we choose to keep in touch with. Our 20-year high school reunion, I think, was last year, and it was super small. I think maybe 10 people from my class went, and I was just like, I don't need to go to this. I talk to the people I want to talk to, and everyone else, it's just like, I see what you're up to. I'm glad, cool. I think it was much more of a bigger deal in, like, the Romeo and Michelle days, when you didn't know,
Yes.
you couldn't keep in contact with people.
Which, by the way, did you hear that they're doing a sequel?
I did. I don't know how I feel
How
about
do you feel about these? Yeah, see, I don't know either.
perfect. Like, I don't need a sequel to Romeo and Michelle. It
I
was
know
good. I
it.
loved it.
I feel like the studios just keep coming at millennials with all of these bringbacks and reboots, and every now and then it's exciting. But I am a really big skeptic critic. I can't think of the right word, but I'm very critical. It has to be done very well. It has to be done with a point besides just a money grab to our generation, because I feel like it's very apparent how nostalgic we are. Um, and they want to profit off of that. But yeah, I don't know. I love Lisa Kudrow and everything, but I'm like, I don't know.
I think a bit of our nostalgia is just that, like, I've seen like so many people that are obviously older than us, and they're giving us shit for our nostalgia. Like, why are we so focused on nostalgia? And it's like
I don't think I've really heard that.
I've seen some telling us like, oh, this generation needs to grow up and stuff, and it's like,
Okay, yeah, I guess if you put it that way, I have seen some of that.
dude, the times we're living in are kind of shitty. Everyone's stressed. If you're paying attention, let us love what we love. Let us have what we have. If someone our age wants to go to Disneyland for a fucking day, let them. Who cares? That's what they love. We're at that age now. It's like we're saving money. Let us have our stupid hobbies. Let us collect.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Heaven forbid we're happy. It's almost like they're just mad that we want to be happy.
No, you need to have a house. You need to have kids. You need to get married. You need to have all this by this age. And it's like, I have a cat. I'm cool. I like going to the movies. Like I do what I want. So
Play my video games.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think they're just bitter that we're not following their way that they told us to do things.
Right? Yeah.
Because we were told a very specific format. You're going to graduate from high school, you're going to go to college, you're going to get your career, and you're going to stay in that career, get your pension or whatever the hell, and then you're going to retire and you're going to be good. Like that's what but all of us are just like, well, this isn't what you said it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like you didn't tell me about the student debt.
Right?
You didn't tell me about how expensive houses are.
Like, oh yeah, I worked at a bar, got through college. It's like, yeah, because your college tuition was cheap as shit. Look what it is now. What do you want, dude?
So yes, let us have our nostalgia, but also you don't have to remake it for us
Yeah, no.
in the form of sequels and reboots all the time.
Just re-release Romeo and Michelle and I'll watch it. Like I'll totally spend
Right? I
$10 to go
I
see it.
will buy the 25 or the 25-year anniversary edition Blu-ray. Yes, I will do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's pretty evident that the main character let her summer become all consumed by this one guy, Connor. How common do you think it is that we let our crushes consume a lot of not only our mental space, but our physical space too, whether it's simply trying to spend time with them or journal about them, which I know you're very on par with, or just anything else?
Very common actually, because again, going back to like we're so like that's our person, that's our person. This is going to be magical. And I've had that so many times with people I've had crushes on in my teen years. The first new person that I was exposed to in high school that I had a crush on, had a big crush on her. And we didn't have the same classes because she was smarter than me, all the AP classes, and I was lazy. But just like every time I got a glimpse of her walking to class or by the lockers, it's just like, oh, just
The pitter patter of the
yeah,
heart.
it took up so much, like you said, like headspace, just like, just constantly thinking about her. So it, we take up a lot of time with our crushes, like whether we realize it or not, just like devote like our entire, like not identity, but just that entire headspace. You see like a pie chart of our headspace. It's like the crush is like 90%, then 10% is just like everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's so true. Like, did you ever, again, this is getting a guy's perspective versus a girl's perspective, but like you would dress for your crush, be like, okay, well, I know I have a class with them today. I need to make sure I'm on point. Cover that zit, make sure the hair is not frizzy, put on a good outfit because I got to look my best.
Yeah. Like I said, I went to a private school, so we kind of wore the same thing every day.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
The shoes, I was really paid a lot of attention to my shoes. I didn't want my shoes to get scuffed, and I just wore like, basic Converse. But I was very like, no, they're not getting scuffed. Like they're good. And then my hair, the early 2000s, I went through that gel period where I just gelled the shit out of my hair. But then toward the end of high school, I was just kind of like, I don't care about my hair that much. But yeah, I was very, very much like I just wanted to show, look, I'm put together. I'm not a slob.
Yes. Yeah.
Wash my face, and everything.
Yeah, and I do like that you cared a lot about your shoes because given that you had to wear a uniform, that still says a lot. Like you're still like, okay, this is the part I can control.
Yeah.
And I can control my shoes, I can control my hair, and this is how I'm going to project my identity.
Yeah, and I tried really hard, probably cringe-worthy hard to try and fit in with my hair because I have really thick curly hair, so trying to spike that in the early 2000s, trying to gel that shit up was very difficult. So there just came a point where I was just like, okay, just gonna gel it and just like comb it back, all greasy and everything. It was gross, but yeah. And then my shoes, yeah, I wore Converse for 4 years of high school, and then if I remember correctly, my senior year, that's when I got really emo-y about like everything, and so I started writing little notes on my shoes like "fuck love, love doesn't exist." I was a mess. I was a hot
You
mess.
know, now that you say that, I do remember there was a trend at my high school too where we would write stuff like that on our shoes. That one was very deep. That was very a deep cut, fuck love. But yeah, we would write things, I don't know, like maybe like dumb little messages or, trendy sayings or stuff that yeah, you just unlocked a memory. Cuz me and my friends, we loved our Converse.
Mhm.
I had a pair of non-traditional looking gray ones that were kind of like faux suede, and I love those shoes. Actually, anytime I walk by a shoe store, I look to see if there's something around that realm so I can get those shoes again. And I also had a pair of pink and black Converse. But yeah, you unlocked a memory.
I mean, that's all we had in my high school. Like, you just,
Yeah.
'cause we all wore the same uniform. It was either, "Oh, I'm gonna wear the green shirt today, the white shirt, the yellow shirt," you know? So it's like and the same khaki pants, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna put cool shoes on and do my hair maybe, so, yeah.
Yeah. And it's totally understandable because you said you tried cringingly hard to fit in, like with your hair. I feel like we all do that because, again, we feel so hard during that time of our lives. And to feel other than is really hard because a lot of times you feel very isolated as a teenager because you think you're the only one going through things or things are extra embarrassing when they are embarrassing.
Yeah.
So you really want to try to conform just because you don't want to add any extra pressure or trials and tribulations to yourself.
It's funny when you said that. You unlocked a memory for me now because I remember a time, my high school crush, she had a locker right next to mine. We were very good friends, but I was harboring this secret crush on her that I didn't want her to know about. And I remember she was at her locker, and I was standing with my other friend, and we were just play acting tough with each other because, guys. And so we're just like kind of shoving. And he accidentally shoved me a little too hard, and I fell backwards on the locker. But it just so happened that everybody turned, and the entire like whoever was out in the quad area was like, "Ooh!" And I was like, "Oh God, like this is a thing." And then we just started laughing, and he just helped me up, and I was just like, "Oh Jesus, this is so embarrassing."
I'm sorry I unlocked an embarrassing memory.
It's actually a funny memory because it's just so ridiculous how just, like, one little fall and suddenly everyone's like, "Ooh," like, thinking like, "Oh, a fight's gonna break out or something," and then my crush is, like, right there.
It's almost like teenagers have some sort of radar. Like, oh, there's the drama. There it
Seriously.
is over there. We got to watch it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Like, at least thank God we didn't have cell phones back
Right?
then. Now, I'm sure when teens have drama in school, like the cell phones go up. Like,
It's on Instagram or TikTok, whatever the hell they do.
yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't. Oh my gosh. Now I have a fear for my child who is still yet to be a teenager, but I'm just like, oh my God. And then there was another thing you said too, because I have the curly hair struggle. And I feel very strongly about this because you said you tried to conform with your hair, like, get it spiky, even though it's thick and curly. I feel like we were really conditioned that straight hair is the way to go. There was nobody really embracing curls unless you were Carrie Russell.
Yeah, like, I'm a boy or guy, whatever, But
Yeah.
when I was a little boy, I'd always watch these TV shows, and you probably know this because you had crushes on, like, the floppy hair that
Oh, yeah.
boys had. I always wanted to do that, and I couldn't because my hair was so damn curly and thick, like, it wasn't straight, it wouldn't part and I was always complaining to my mom, like, "I want hair like this," and she's like, "Well, you don't have hair like that."
Yeah.
And, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I was conditioned to think, "Okay, that's the norm, that's the good style of hair." During COVID, when I didn't have a haircut for a year and a half, it was long and curly, and I was like, "Damn, I should have embraced this more." It's like
Yeah. Yeah. I thought of that too. You reminded me, did you ever watch Trevor Noah? Because his hair just got like so big during the
yeah,
pandemic and I loved it. I thought it was great. But yeah, as a girl, I was conditioned. I always straightened my hair. I always blowed. I was just damaging my hair
yeah,
so much. I didn't learn until I was in my mid 20s. I was supposed to appropriately take care of my curly hair because everything was just like, oh, blow dry it straight and, long, beautiful straight hair. I guess the only person I can think of that had curly hair that maybe we saw in the media that was a guy was AC Slater from Saved by the Bell.
that curly,
But
greasy mullet, so that was like
yeah, I know. Yeah, that was kind of cringy. He's the only person I can think of that really sported the curly hair. And again, for females, it was Carrie Russell. I can't really think of.
yeah, and at school, I feel like for, like, first 2 or 3 years of high school, everyone had, like, gelled, spiked hair, and I tried so hard and it didn't work, and then, like, senior year, that's when I stopped caring, I was like, "You know what? I'm not gonna put anything
Yeah,
in
because
my hair."
by the time you're a senior in high school, you're tired. You're just
Yeah,
like, look, I'm about to be out of here.
so I just let my hair grow senior year, like, my hair was curly. I think that's
Good.
most of the other guys started doing that with hair too, because I remember a lot of guys started growing out their hair longer, just letting it grow. So I don't know if that was the trend or if we all just kind of just collectively just thought to ourselves, like, said, like, whatever, we're out of here. Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And plus, you also have that senioritis a little bit where you're just like, well, I'm the senior now.
Yeah.
I can set the example for the younger kids, and it's that I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So, if you were to write your own story, which crush in your life would you write about and why?
I've kind of done that already because I like to write. I'm an aspiring writer, so I write a lot of stories. And there's like three big crushes I remember. One was high school, one was right after high school, and then the other one was the girl I was telling you about. So I think those would be like the big three. And the high school one, the high school one was kind of funny. I would write about that one just because it was so ridiculous. Like my level of the crush I had on her. She was a drama kid. She played sports. She was like pretty much the exact opposite of what you think I would like, given that my first crush was Wednesday Addams, you know?
Yeah.
The deadpan dark, and she was very, like, perky, very, like,
To
bright,
be fair, there's not a lot of Wednesday Adams out in the real world.
burnt. There
So, you didn't really have a lot to choose from in that aspect.
especially at my Catholic school, I didn't.
Yes.
But I would write about her because there was, like, a point too where, like, she had just broken up with this dude that she was dating, and he was, like, a basketball player, on the basketball team, he was popular, and she was free, and I was like, "Oh, man, maybe I should? But nah, I can't." And then she started having a crush on my friend, and he was, like, so
Oh,
oblivious to it. Like, she was crushing on him so hard, she was doing, like, all the things, like spending time with him, flirting and stuff, and I would just watch it from afar while he was just like, "What? What's happening?" And I was like, "Oh, you bastard." Like,
that's
are
the
you
worst.
blind? Like, what's happening here? Like, she's throwing herself at you and you're just like, whatever."
And that's gotta be hard for you because, like you said, you're inside dying because you want the crush. But I'm assuming also for your friend, you're also just like, dude, come on, wake up. This girl who's really awesome. Like, you kind of also am rooting for him at the same time.
Like, I want him to I like, selfishly, I don't want him to succeed, but at the same time, it's like, how are you missing the signs? Like, seriously,
Yes.
like, come on. Don't be dumb.
Like you could at least have the happiness that I want and I can live vicariously through you.
Yeah,
Or
there was
probably not. It would be more like more sad times, but yeah.
yeah, so I would definitely write about that one because that was, like, the typical teenage high school crush. I'm infatuated with someone, and they're just
Yes.
oblivious to me, they're onto someone else, and then that person's oblivious to them, and it's just so much ridiculousness looking back at it now, it's like, "Oh my god, we were so dumb." You know?
But we thought we were so grown and so cool.
I know, I was like, "I'm an adult," and I was like, "Wait, no, I'm not. I'm like 17, 18." Like, "No."
I know. Well, it's hard when they do tell us that at 18 we're adults and we can go out into the world, sign student loan documents and
Man,
stuff.
I could do that, I could go to war, but I can't buy beer. It's like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yes.
That
Yes.
was the big one that always pissed me off. It's like that's right around the time the war in Iraq started. And so it's like, wait a
Hmm.
minute. So I could go to war, but I can't have a drink legally. Do you see the discrepancy
Yeah.
here, guys? Like nobody,
Yeah. You're like, I can go fight, but I can't drink about it.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
thanks a lot.
Yeah. But I could buy cigarettes. And I was like, what is happening? Like, what's going on here? That's the big one that I would write about, just like that high school crush.
Awesome. I love it. And I hope you do. And because, like you said, you're an aspiring writer. So what do you write?
Well, lately I've been writing horror stories because I feel some weird amount of comfort in horror during scary times. You know what I mean?
Hmm. I feel like that checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and especially during the pandemic when that started, I was reading a lot more horror too because I was like, well, I'm already living through the worst fear of my life, so I might as well just read something scary and see if that scares me. And it was oddly comforting, like, oh, yeah, okay, I can handle this. I write a little bit of that. Sometimes I write like slice of life stuff, you know?
Do you have a place where you publish your writing?
No, no, I'm too shy. I still just write on my Word document or I write in my little yellow legal pad. I'm one of those people, it's like the world's not ready for my stuff.
I feel like that it harkens back to teenage Michael a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit of a emo passion there.
I haven't gotten rid of that.
I mean, a piece of our child selves are always going to be a part of us, always. But what plans do you have for your writing in the future?
I mean, I'd like to submit some stuff if I just feel comfortable enough, but I guess it's just yeah, it's about feeling comfortable, just comfortable enough to put it out there and just be prepared for someone to be like, "Yeah, no, we're not gonna do this," you know?
Yeah.
Like they told us in writing classes at college, a lot of it you just have to be prepared to be rejected. You have to be okay with that because It just takes just the one to get through and get published and someone to read it and just be like, "Okay, yeah, let's do this." But a lot of it is just, "No, we're not gonna do this."
Yeah. And so are you planning on publishing books or articles or just pieces,
I like to do, like, short stories first before I
short story?
trying to actually, the first so it's funny going back to summer school and what I did during my teenage summer years. The first short story I ever wrote, like a little novella I wrote in summer school because I was so bored, and I wrote it, and it was probably like a 30-page handwritten, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is profound. This is the best thing ever." And then I read it again in, like, 20s and 30s, and I was like, "Oh god, what was I doing?" The main character, who's obviously me, just being whiny and emo about stuff, and I was like, "Oh god, I can never put this into the world."
But I mean, it's still valuable because you can see how you've grown from it. And also I think it's very telling. Like I love that, when you were bored, you decided to write, which is how that's really like a piece of like the person that you are. Because some people they'd be like, "You want me to write a story for fun?" Like
Yeah.
they wouldn't understand me and you.
Yeah, like, there was a point in college too where I literally skipped class because I was in the library just writing a story, and I was like, "I'm just gonna keep going." Just like, I don't feel like going to class. I'm in a groove. I'm just gonna keep going. So,
Yeah, when you're locked in, you don't want to stop the flow. I've had to stop the flow several times because like I said, I'm a mom. And then you just kind of lose it. Sometimes it'll be like a month before I come back to that same thing because you broke kind of like the magic little zone.
yeah, and it's not the same when you come back because it's like you were, like you said, so in the zone,
Yeah, you're like in this little magic tunnel of shiny stars. And then once you get taken out of it, it's like, well, now I don't feel it anymore. Well, I hope that you do a lot of writing in the future. I will be standing by when you publish something. So, with that, we've reached the end of the time for our episode. Before we go, did you have anything extra you wanted to say or ask?
No, just thank you for having me on. This is fun.
I'm so glad that you were able to come on. And before we do go, though, share where listeners can find you.
I'm on Threads at C Caulfield, and I don't really use Twitter except for shit posting, just reposts. So just Threads. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right. So I will definitely put that in the show notes in case people want to follow you and check out your posts. But yeah, that's about it. But thank you so much again, Michael, for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yes, it was fun. So, what do you think? How do you feel? If you like this episode and would like to hear another, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you have some extra time, check out my Substack at jitsi.substack.com. The link will be in the show notes. There, you can check out my memoir series that inspired the podcast and can peek inside the real-life stories and experiences that inspire the topics in each episode. The Crush Chronicles podcast is 100% produced by me, Rachel Jitsawat. The music is by Music Town, and the sound effects are by Pixabay. Thank you for listening, and until next time, remember, love yourself first. The rest will follow.